Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming for one more press conference. It's the last of the day. Some housekeeping notes to you guys. You photographers here at the front, I'm going to ask the cast to stand for 1 minute. We take pictures for 1 minute. Then I'm going to kindly ask you guys to move to the sides. Please leave some space for the volunteers. For you, press, if you don't mind standing up, saying your name, the media you work for, and then ask your question. Mobiles, please switch it off. No flashes allowed. If the cameras can be put in a silence mode, that will be the best thing. Just reminding everyone, the press conferences are being broadcasted live at http://inmovies.ca/TIFF. They're also available on smartphone exclusively on Bell Network. I'd very much like to welcome on stage the director, the writer, and the actors of the film Stone.
Can you look right in front of you? Ed, right here. Mr. De Niro.
Can I have all three of you look here, please? Thank you.
Mr. De Niro, please. Thank you. And Edward, right Francis, right here. Thank you. Francis, right here, please. Right down here.
Maybe a little more time.
And Mr. De Niro, right in front of you, please.
One more, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Norton.
Mr. De Niro again.
Mila, right here, please. Thank you. Mr. De Niro, right here in the middle.
Mila, right down in the front. Mila, right down in the front.
Ed, can I get you right here, please? Thank you.
Ed, all the way to your
Right
right.
next to him.
Mr. Norton, all the way to your right, sir.
Gents, please move to the side, please. We're going to start, please. No more pictures, please.
Mila, right here, one more.
Please, gents, moving to the side.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the press conference for the film. Is this working? Yes, for the film Stone. My name's Henri Béard, and I will introduce the people who are here at this table, our panelists. I will introduce them, as it were, in pairs. At the far end of my far end of the table, the scriptwriter Angus MacLachlan, and sitting next to me, the director John Curran. Sitting next to the scriptwriter, the very introvert Madeline and the very extrovert Lucetta, Miss Frances Conroy and Miss Mila Jovovich. I'm not even going to try Mr. Edward Norton and Mr. Robert De Niro. I'll throw the first couple of questions, and then we'll take questions from the floor. The strange thing, and this goes to the director and the scriptwriter, is that those two characters, the two characters that are portrayed by Mr. Norton and Mr. De Niro, are on a clash course, yet as viewers we root for both at the same time, which is rare and sometimes uncomfortable. Does that come in the writing, initially, in the writing and the work with you, Mr. Curran? Does it happen also when the cast is chosen? How does it go?
Who's answering? I think it depends on who you ask. These guys would say it's in the casting. Angus would probably say it's in the writing. But I think it's a balance of everything. I think that it's one of the reasons I was drawn to the script is that it's essentially a decent guy making a lot of bad decisions and watching his life unravel. And then on the surface, a character who, seemingly is dysfunctional and watching him evolve towards a different place. And I think that the point of the film is to watch his transference, but watching some people making some pretty bad decisions, but never losing, compassion or interest in them. But I think it's a to everyone's credit. I think it's a balance of the writing and the casting.
Us too. The girls. What about our characters?
True. Well, you're not exactly on a collision course. You hardly meet.
Certainly in the conception of the piece, I'm always interested in characters that are gray, not black or white, and the flip side of whatever your first conception of them is. And that's what I think human beings are like, and that's what's fascinating to experience in a film. So the conception was that way. The execution certainly brings it out to, brilliant effect with all the acting and the directing.
Step 3, and then I will take the first question here. Mr. De Niro and Mr. Norton, you're both famous for doing your homework by yourselves inside your own personal lab. The writing is great, the director is great. You still read it and go, what the hell am I going to do with this? How do you go about it? You have to flesh them out.
We share a lab now because the rent the rent in New York is so high that we share a lab. I think there's not a lot of this one for me. It was pretty straightforward because the environment that the character's living in is so specific, and we were really lucky. We had a prison north of Detroit that was very accommodating and accessible for us, and they made a number of the inmates available to me to speak with and interview, and that was my main resource. Other than John, talking to John, I think for me it was about trying to dig into the authenticity of what those guys experience and how they speak, and it was nicely contained for me.
Mr. De Niro?
No, we had a guy there who had worked in the system in that prison and was the technical consultant for me. The story, in general, my character and what he goes through is something that, aside from what he was giving as the technical, if you will, consultant and certain things that were very, very helpful, I think a lot of it was just, I can empathize with my character a lot, and to say the least, and I think a lot of it is like classic situation of this couple that is explained in the writing, so I don't have to do much research on that. So,
Sir?
For Latin America, I have a question for Robert De Niro. Do you think that what happens in life, it has to happen, or we make our own destiny, like the movie suggests?
Oh, I sometimes think that people, as I get older, things have been predetermined for me, whether I liked it, wanted it, wished for it, whatever, way before, in some way. It's like, something, and others you do have a choice that you can change, and then that choice that you make to change is still part of this grand scheme. It's like those birds that fly 9,000 miles from one end of the earth to the other, from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. They find their way there every year or whatever. It's just somehow as you get older in a cycle, you realize this kind of happened, but I guess in a way it was planned for me. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but.
A question to the ladies now. I'll start with you, Ms. Jovovich. You're gonna kill me for saying this, but right. I was almost tempted to say Mila, open parenthesis, The Fifth Element, Joan of Arc, Resident Evil, close parenthesis, Jovovich.
That's great. That's like a little bit less than half my resume.
No.
Awesome.
Wait. Great.
going.
How did you land on this one? What did you do? How did you push? Did you what?
Well, I read for the casting director. I put myself on tape, and then I met with John, and we talked about the character together, and he really loved the audition and had me fly into New York to meet our boys here, and we had a great meeting, which Edward was so kind to remind me that from the neck down I was shaking like a leaf through. Which I was trying to hide very, very much, but I guess I didn't. So yeah, it was pretty much the normal process of auditioning and getting called back and finally meeting the actors, which was so exciting for me because we had a really great work session, and I found myself very much in love with the whole environment that these guys created here, John and Edward and Robert. And when I left, I was just really sad that I might not have any more part in it. And then John gave me a call a week later and said, "So, you ready to go to Michigan?" Yeah, it was great.
Miss Conroy, your character Madeline is a very sort of sweet, straightforward, very reserved character, except at one point you say something to Mr. De Niro when you come up with the story of the fire, and you just say, as good a story as any. And that sort of forces us to go back on your character and realize how much darkness, how deep your dark side is too. If you, as an actor, may tell us how did you plant the seeds through your performance in order for us to perceive that?
Well, I shared scenes with a great actor and a wonderful director with a beautiful script. And there are certain things that evolve just by being in the presence of your collaborators, really, and giving birth to something together. The script is beautiful. And she's a person that is all too human and has many sides to her. And you realize towards the end of the film that there is a side that perhaps wasn't obvious, wasn't evident, but it's been building all along because of the